system if you didn't want to title it anymore and keep it registered.
Section 3 provides for that. It says it's titled, once it's titled, it's always titled unless the vehicle becomes titled in another jurisdiction or if the owner establishes that the vehicle is no longer subject to vehicle titling requirements. So yes, there is a way to get out of it if you choose to get rid of the title. But you have to go through a procedure with DMV to do that. Generally, that's to protect anyone who might be a security interest listed on the title.
Well, it's required to comply with the vehicle titling provisions for the vehicle code for any reason. I never did think that made any sense. And that's the exemption.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever determine what that meant?
Madam Chair, Representative Harper, if I'll read it in its entirety, subsection 1 of this section applies to a vehicle issued a certificate of title by the state, even if one of the following applies to the vehicle. So what it's saying is that permissive titling can be done even if at some time the vehicle becomes eligible for an exemption for titling requirements, or it does get to be sort of strange legal language, but the issuance of the certificate of title was permissive under Section 2, and 3, that the vehicle is not required to be titled. So really, Section 2 sub C is saying that if a vehicle is not required to be titled, it can still be titled under Section
My point is that line C makes unnecessary everything that proceeded before it. If for any reason covers A and B, or anything else that you can think of that would disqualify.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through it. Section 1 says that a vehicle, Section 1, I shouldn't say Section 1, Sub 1 of Section 3 says that once a vehicle is titled, it remains titled unless it becomes titled in another jurisdiction, or if the owner can establish that it's not subject to title requirements. Section 2 says that subsection 1 applies even if the vehicle becomes eligible for an exemption, number 1, and number 2, that the issuance was permissive. It still has to be titled as long as it's titled. And that 3, that the vehicle is not required to be titled. So even if a vehicle is not required to be titled, once it is titled permissively, it will remain titled. And that's what sub C stands for. It is confusing language, I agree.
Okay.
Does that answer
I had to
your
read it
question?
about 3 times.
Madam Chair, Representative Anzer, may I ask Representative Harper a question?
Sure.
Were you concerned that once it's titled, it remains titled forever? I was trying to follow the drift of your question.
Yeah, that is, yes, that was the thrust of my discussion. This was a permissive thing. If you wanted to title something that the law doesn't require to be titled, I was hoping that you also had the opportunity to stop
Untitle it.
doing it.
So if you sold it to somebody else, they could untitle it. And it doesn't do that, right?
It does.
It does do that.
It does do that.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't understand, I'm confused. but-
It does that. It says that it remains titled unless you make the determination that you no
do
longer
something
want
else
it
with it.
titled, and then you have to go through the process to back it out.
That's what I understood the answer to be.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
Representative Brigiotti.
move Senate Bill 124 to the floor with a due pass.
Representative Brigiotti moves Senate, A. Engross, Senate Bill 124 to the floor with a due pass recommendation. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Madam Banzer.
I think I'm going to vote against this because Senator Simmons had a great deal of concern about the EMV checked with Secretary of State for a certificate or DMV, and my previous concerns I think still hold, which is it's a major new area that the state is getting into, and it raises a lot of confusion on what is titled, what should be, where do you check to find out if there's a clear title on a large purchase you're making, and I just think it needs to be looked at more in depth.
Representative Banzer, I might point out that although Senator Simmons didn't carry the bill on the floor, he got up and supported it. Also, I think by the third meeting we had on this bill, the banking industry was in support and agreed that it was workable, am I right? So, anyhow, no, we're in work session. Janet, call the roll.
There in section 2.
Representative Harper. Representative Harper.
Aye. Excuse me.
Representative Hayden.
Aye.
Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Representative Whitty.
Aye.
Representative Lindquist. Representative Banzer.
No?
Representative Brigiotti.
Aye.
Representative Lindquist.
Aye. Okay, we're going to hold off 1 second. You don't see the error? Dell, what's the error? You say there's an error in section 2. What is it?
Well,
We
I
don't
think
seem to
you're
find it.
adopting something you don't really intend. Section 2. Right. Probably others will,
Motion carried. Why don't you talk to Dell and find out what his problem is before we send it to the floor?
His objection was to section 2.
Yes, but we were already in work session. Claudia's going to work with him and find out what his objection is. Senate Bill 125.
Senate Bill 125, Madam Chair, members of the committee, is another law relating to titling and registration. Current law, meaning prior to the revision, puts titling and registration provisions together. The revision separated the two into distinct legal requirements, which, by the way, as an aside, is one reason why the issue of title is becoming perhaps a bigger issue than it has been in the past, because it's never been its own legal entity in the law. The revision, since titling indicates ownership and registration indicates that a vehicle has the right to use the public highways of the state, they are now distinct. Current law provides only for registration records and for the division keeping registration records. While there has always been the implication that the division had to keep title records since titles are required for vehicles to be registered, there are no specific provisions setting out what title records must be kept by the division. Senate Bill 125 provides for DMV to establish title records distinct from registration records. The bill also makes it clear that the title document is prima facie evidence of ownership, and also allows that the title and registration information may be stored together. The subcommittee reviewed the new provisions proposed in the bill, and the bill was supported by the subcommittee. Amendments to the bill were to resolve conflicts with SB 125.
With 100.
I mean, with
We
100,
are
I'm sorry.
on 125. Are there any questions? Any discussion?
So moved.
Representative Brigiotti moves that we send A and Gross Senate Bill 125 to the floor with a due pass recommendation. Is there any discussion? Any objection? So ordered. Representative Hayden, would you carry this one?
May I defer, Madam Chair?
I'll carry, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Representative Roberts. Okay, it's now 9:45. We have 10 o'clock floor session, so what we will do is carry the remaining bills over until Thursday, which was noted on the agenda when we sent it out. And if there's no more business to come before the committee, we're adjourned.